Hoyb, I didn't know that you was Jewish. There's a funny line from a play in which I was a part of, the less than talented cast in high school. And I say less than talented because none of us ever quite made it to Broadway, at least as a star, on the bus, on the train, but not as a star. And that happens sometimes. But this line, it was delivered in a scene that presented a sophomorically comical situation where two guys are in a setting where one has the opportunity to watch the other fellow bathing, figure that out, and immediately to a pubescent mind, the humor of an uncomfortable topic is apparent, readily. But most in high school, even elite Jesuit high schools, like the ones attended by people like Congressman Don Byer and Senator Tim Kaine, miss the subtle nuance that is communicated in, shall we say, psychic terms, or an intellectual layer of stimulation for those so inclined and capable, like a kind of inside joke you can never really understand unless you are part of that private club possessed with a membership key. And the thought is subliminally conveyed in this unadulterated humor for the less educated is that Herb has been living a secret life in the closet, but as a person of the Jewish faith, about which, until this uncomfortable situation arises, he had not even a hint of suspicion about his faith traditions and convictions betraying him, despite what may have been for him a sincerely held faith belief practiced in diligent devotion. In one video, we had discussed a similar problem for the disciple who would jump out of a fishing boat upon hearing his Lord's call to walk on water, and who had his devotion to his Lord and faith get him into a little trouble at a time when he was boastful of his self-assurance in his devotion to the Lord, and finding his speech bewaileth him yet, even when he was trying not to get noticed, not ashamed of the gospel notwithstanding. And with the ever-present pandemic, where the church has taken a substantial hit with closed churches, canceled worship services, suspension of communion wine, and the sharpest decline in devotional Bible reading in history, like our character Hoyb, as we say in Jersey, you may find some of your friends unaware that you have a blessed assurance through a crisis in witness to your faith. In the Synoptic Gospel of Matthew chapter 17, it is recorded, and after 6 days Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them. And his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And those in faith, at least in the Christian faith tradition, may recall this moment on a mountaintop as what is referred to as the Transfiguration. If you haven't heard that before, write that down. And for those with a less than expansive vocabulary, the narration about the Lord's face suddenly shining bright as the sun may require a little explanation because it presents a graphic visual with which to relate to our common experiences, albeit in an other than ordinary time, unless bright shining faces is a part of your state of normalcy. But there may be some consternation arising from this transfiguration of what is described as raiment, which became as white as the light. So let's paint a picture for our visual learners that can be easily understood. We have our disciples standing on a high mountain where they traveled with the man who they had been following, who is suddenly transformed into something other than the person who they knew, something different about him. Not only with a face that had become as bright as the sun, but when the Bible uses this term raiment, what the author is telling the reader is that Jesus also had a quick wardrobe change, so that his garments became suddenly white as the light. Incredible magic trick. And you may recall that there are three essential stages in the perfect magic trick, beginning with the pledge, where he produces something from thin air, magic. and you're at once amazed, and a curiosity creates an insatiable appetite for more. Having captured your attention with mystical words, he may from there proceed to the turn, where with more magical words of misdirection, gestures of sleight of hand, trap doors, smoke and mirrors, and other mechanical devices, he may transform something very ordinary into something truly extraordinary. But any magician well prepared can produce something from what appears like nothing. And any magician, garden variety, but well prepared, can then proceed to make it disappear. But only the greatest of all magicians, fully prepared, can take that ordinary object that arose from nowhere and that suddenly vanished without a trace, as if it were all a mystical dream, and then attempting to truly extraordinary make it materialize again. And in the Transfiguration, as recorded in the Synoptic Gospel of Matthew, the magicians pledge whether Jesus, who they knew is suddenly transformed from someone who had before been with them, become a part of their ordinary existence, is transformed into something that is truly extraordinary. It's only a prelude for the turn in this great spectacle manifesting before their eyes. As it is recorded, and behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias, talking with him. Then answered Peter and said unto Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If thou wilt, let us make here the tabernacles, one for thee, and one for Moses, and one for Elias. And while he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid. Now, what just happened here? Normally, when preachers discuss the Transfiguration, the focus is upon the transfiguration of a man called Jesus. But we are going to take another approach, engaging in a novel analysis for a time of a novel coronavirus, by following our disciples along their journey in faith, traveling up the rough side of the mountain to examine not the transfiguration of their Lord, Savior, and Teacher, but upon their transfiguration when suddenly confronted with some, as they say, evolutionary pressure. Everything was good when they met Jesus as fishermen, and everything was going good when he chose these disciples to join him on a field trip alone, little FaceTime with the boss, to go with him and ascend a mountain because, like most girls, they enjoyed outdoors, going on long walks in the woods and maybe even holding hands. And they even enjoyed the marvels of a spectacular transformation of Jesus into something that must have been truly extraordinary. But all of a sudden, things started to get a little uncomfortable, a little weird. And maybe you have been at that same place before in your life, maybe in law school, having survived college, law school entrance exams, briefing cases in class, and the Socratic method, but suddenly faced a comprehensive final exam. Maybe you got to medical school and had mastered the book study, made your way through the labs, practiced your art with lab animals and cadavers, and all of a sudden found yourself in a situation where playtime was over and you held somebody else's life in your unpracticed hands. Maybe you went into the military and decided to do the real cool stuff, beginning as an infantryman, learning to shoot, move, and communicate, and then volunteering for airborne training and entering special operations community. Or maybe you just began experimentation with recreational drugs and found yourself on a bad trip. But, however, and in whatever way you arrived at that particular moment in time, the feeling was probably the same. Playtime is over, and it's about to get real up in here. But at least in this narrative, in the Synoptic Gospel of Matthew, treating the familiar Transfiguration account is recorded. And Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise and be not afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man save Jesus alone. And as they came down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, "Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead." And his disciples asked him, saying, "Why then say the scribes that Elias must first come?" And Jesus answered and said unto them, "Elias truly shall first come and restore all things. But I say unto you that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them." And only then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of John the Baptist. And when they were come to the multitude, having come down from the mountaintop, having experienced not only the transfiguration of their Lord and Savior before their very own eyes, received instruction, but also experiencing a transfiguration in themselves, equipped with a fuller vision and knowledge, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and sore vexed. For oft times he falleth into the fire and oft into the water. And I'm sure quite a few parents have children like that who just can't seem to get it right. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. But I have a little adult supervision here. Bring him hither to me. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him. And the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, Why could not we cast him out? And Jesus said unto them, listen to this, because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove. And nothing shall be impossible unto you. And so, in pandemic crisis, perhaps the question is, do you find friends like Herb's friend, who didn't know until a very awkward situation that he was a man of great faith and devotion? Have you been living like Jesus' select few and chosen disciples who had the exclusive opportunity to venture to the top of the mountain and experience wonders unparalleled, and even after all of that, still finding your faith and your power to work miracles a little meek? You stutter and stammer in testifying when your mouth is called to speak. Is your God omnipotent and ubiquitous, no contest for a novel coronavirus, less than 5% infectious by empirical validation, invisibility capable of only being seen with the most powerful electron microscopes measured in nanoparticle units described as microns, 350 of which can be placed inside the area filled by a period at the end of a sentence on a standard size sheet of paper? And how much smaller is your mustard seed word of faith? Can you move a mountain with it? Is nothing impossible unto you? Are you ashamed of your gospel? Have you made your decision for Christ? Does anyone even know that you are a person of faith in pandemic crisis? A pathogen arising from the most abundant biological particles in the world that had before COVID-19 only presented a total of 220 viruses harmful to man has already made you so terrified as to abandon everything that you once knew as normal, leaving you praying for the end of a pandemic, and has, at least according to science, attained superiority over you, a rational person, through gains of function acquired through natural selection. And were I, a novel coronavirus consisting of a single strand of RNA, measured in nanoparticle units described as microns, it would require 350 to to fill a period on a standard piece of paper, I must admit that even if science would not allow me, if I was a COVID-19 causative agent, that is no joke to you, I'd be laughing my superior ass off. My name is Major Mike Webb, and by God, I am running for governor of Virginia. I ask that every Virginian and American true, like the motto of the infantry, follow me, and we shall overcome. Honest. And y'all come back now. Yeah. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb. And y'all come back now. Yeah.